What's up, kings and queens? It's your boy Dan from Daft Previews, and we've got a 15 game slate to get through. Now, we're not doing deep dives by Daft in this one, but I'm going to give you some of the picks I've already landed on, and we'll muck around with Props Madness to see if there's any value on the board. If that sounds interesting, let's go. Before we talk about anything else, I do ask that you do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And the reason why is because I'm dropping bangers just like this every day. I'm not your everyday Capo's out here just throwing out 3 picks, hoping that they win. I'm going to give you more value than that. A lot of insights, a lot of analysis, because I know there's nothing that feels better than making your own selections and winning that bet. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Now let's talk about it. Firstly, the tool that we're using today is Props Madness. If you did not know, this is the most advanced data analytical tool you can use on the NBA. It's pretty new to the market. I've got a 7-day free trial for it, and I'm the only person who can give you a discount on YouTube. So use the code DAFT and you get 25% off after that 7-day free trial. Links are in the description. Go ahead and check it out. So we'll talk about the picks that I have first, and then we'll click through the games, and I'll look to give you some insights and analysis on some other players. Being transparent with you, I haven't gone through every single game yet. There's 15 of them. I think I've gone through about 8 or 9, and I've got 5 picks so far. So the first pick I want to share with you guys has something to do with my man, Jordan Poole. Now, Jordan Poole up against the Golden State Warriors today. Infamous Draymond Green encounter. So he gets to face his old friend today. My pick in this game, I'm looking to fade Jordan Poole, and I'm looking to take his under in his points plus assists. We're looking at under 30.5 here for Jordan Poole. Now, what's my analysis here on Jordan Poole? Firstly, this matchup for him is difficult as hell. And another thing I'll say is some people are going to bet on him because of this whole revenge game thing. I don't think we're at the point where the revenge game thing really matters. He would have done that last season. He did play well in their first game. Outside of that, didn't play very well against the Warriors. And he's up against a different set of Warriors. This year, the Warriors defense is amazing. That's where they've seen the biggest improvement. So let's talk about this matchup. Jordan Poole likes to score in transition, likes to score, in the pick and roll. He's up against the Warriors today, who just happen to be the number 1 team at defending the transition, top 3 in defending the pick and roll. This matchup is tough as hell. Now, I know that Kyle Kuzma is not in the game, but Kyle Kuzma's been missing for 2 games now. Jordan Poole, 33 against Atlanta, but then only 24 against Miami, who's another great defensive team. Now, if you take a look at his season, he's only covered this points and assist line against shit teams. And that shit team is Atlanta, an absolute turnstile when it comes to defense. Just check out the defensive rating here. Atlanta, bottom 3 in defensive rating this year, whereas the Golden State Warriors, they are top 2. So even outside of that, he's only covered it against the worst teams. Against the better teams, hasn't covered this points plus assist line. So the matchup is a difficult one if you look at play types, but it's also difficult if you look at shot zones. Jordan Poole scores 57% of his points above the break. And if you look at the Golden State Warriors, number 1 in the league at defending above the break right now. So I do like that. The matchup is difficult as hell. I did have a look at his numbers last season when faced with a very similar matchup. If we just look at the top 15 teams in defending the pick and roll, top 15 teams at defending above the break, we can see here that he did struggle under in a lot of these games, but keeping in mind a limited role. He played close to 30 minutes in these games. He's playing slightly more at the moment, but at the same time, he averaged 18 points plus assists in these games where he did have a difficult matchup. So we're looking at barbecue chicken. I think some of these games were without Kyle Kuzma as well. So it's only one of them. So the one game without Kyle Kuzma, shot volume did go up, still fell under this line. So this matchup is a difficult one for Jordan Poole. And the other thing on our side is that there is blowout potential in this game. So the spread is 10 points. The Warriors 10-point favorites. Their offense is lightning. Their defense is excellent. The Wizards have a ton of injuries. I don't know if they can hang with the Warriors here, even though they're at home. So there's also a risk here, not a risk, but a benefit that they could be a blowout, and Jordan Poole doesn't see the minutes that we need. So that's my first pick, Jordan Poole under his points plus assists. My next one, we're heading into the Lakers versus the Pistons, and I'm going with a monobrow here, and it's a very simple pick, but I like his over 27.5 points. If you look at the matchup data, it's probably not the most ideal matchup here for AD, but does that matter? My man's a beast right now. AD scoring a lot of his points in the paint as he normally does. Detroit, I'd say they're above average at defending that in a very small sample size this year. He scores from the free throw line, pick and roll, and in the post. The matchup isn't perfect for him, But shit, that doesn't bother me. If we look at how teams have defended the pick and roll, where he scores a lot of his points, he's had tougher matchups in the pick and roll. Calling out the matchups with Phoenix, he lit them up with 35 and 29. We look at teams that defend the restricted area quite well. The Sacramento Kings, for example, AD scored 31 points in that game. Basically, this is a minutes and a volume play. Where AD plays more than 32 minutes, he's covered this line in every single game. Now, the Lakers are 6.5-point favorites here against the Pistons, but at the same time, the Lakers haven't blown out anybody, even against the Raptors. I think that game went to overtime, I believe, or it was really close. They should have clobbered them, but they didn't. AD had to play 36 minutes in that game, ended up scoring 38 points. The reason why they can't blow teams out, this Lakers defense absolutely sucks. And if it continues to suck, then the Pistons can probably hang with them for a little bit, and Anthony Davis stays on the floor and he gets a whole lot of points. Also, he's matched up against Jalen Duren today. And if you've bet on Jalen Duren this season, you know that he can't keep his hands to himself. My man be touching everybody. He's finding foul trouble. And if he does, is barbecue chicken for Anthony Davis. So I do like his points prop over 27.5. I think that's too low given how well he's been playing. He's clearly the focal point in their offense. And another thing about Detroit is they play at a really slow pace. And when the game does slow down, it actually benefits somebody like Anthony Davis. If this was a transition game, end-to-end action, you probably see a lot more LeBron taking advantage of that. But if the game's going to slow down, they can play half court, and that's where they can work Anthony Davis into the offense. So I do like he's over in points. My next pick is in the Boston Celtics versus the Atlanta Hawks game. And I wanted to take an under for Atlanta, but I just couldn't trust Boston's defense in this one. What I ultimately landed on was on this man, Pusha P, Peyton Pritchard. And his points and rebounds, I think that's a good look. Did rebound quite well without Jaylen Brown, and this Hawks team gives up a lot of rebounds to guards. I ultimately just went with the threes. I felt like that was a safer option for me at pretty good odds. We're looking at over 3.5 3-pointers made. So he's got an ideal matchup here. Peyton Pritchard, 64% of his points come from above the break, but there's another 24 points coming from the corners, right? So based off my hood maths, you're looking at 88% of his points come from the 3-point line. And if you look at Atlanta's defense here, absolutely terrible at defending the perimeter. They're leaking 3-pointers like crazy. If you look at play type analysis, they're one of the worst teams at defending spot up. They're one of the worst teams at defending the pick and roll ball handlers. So the matchup here for Peyton Pritchard, safe to say, it's a great one. Now, Peyton Pritchard's covered this line in 5 out of 7 games this season. He's averaging 4 3-pointers made. Jaylen Brown is out of this game, so Peyton Pritchard should continue to see 28 to 30 minutes in this game, and that's me being conservative. The other thing that kind of works off our favor, is Peyton Pritchard's coming off the bench, so he does get an easier matchup when he does get on there. And also, if Boston happen to blow the Atlanta Hawks out, Peyton Pritchard will probably still get some time. Right. So I do like Peyton Pritchard to continue doing what he has been doing and absolutely bombing. He's on pace to become he's going to break the record for the most 3-pointers made coming off the bench. He's actually on track to hit that in 55 games. So no sweat there for Peyton Pritchard, but I think he comes on and absolutely destroys this Atlanta Hawks team from the perimeter, because that's how my man scores all of his buckets. The Hawks not going to run him off the line. I don't think so. So I do like that. Peyton Pritchard over 3.5 3-pointers made against Atlanta. My next play, Grizzlies versus the Nets. And I'm looking at Ja Morant here, and I like his over in his assist prop. You can get this at 8.5. I've chosen to take it at 9.5 to get it at plus money odds. But let's talk about Ja Morant. He's averaging 9.8 assists per game so far this season. He did rattle off 11 assists in that last matchup against the Nets. He only played 29 minutes in that game, and they lost that game by 13. So they were pretty much out of it. They didn't play very well. They scored like 109 points as a team. Now, Ja Morant has, firstly, the Memphis Grizzlies, they've scored 120 plus points in every game that they've won this season. They are 5.5-point favorites coming into this game. So they've been on a pretty good run, winning a couple of games convincingly, 2 blowout wins against the Bucks and the 76ers. The Nets haven't been great as of late in the last couple of games. So the Grizzlies definitely deserve to be favorites in this game. And if they are, there's a chance here that they score 120 points again. Now, if they do score 120 points again, Ja Morant's going to be leading that offense around. So Ja, talking about his minutes, he is seeing more minutes as of late, and that's because Bane and Smart are injured. So some injuries to key players in their backcourt. Ja Morant getting more minutes. He also complained publicly that he's not playing enough, and his coach has made that change. Now, in his last few games, he's only played 29 and 31 minutes, And that's purely because the Grizzlies been blowing teams out. The Bucks and the 76ers, they were blowouts. He would have played 34 minutes had there not been a blowout. So even more opportunities there left on the table. But even if there's a blowout or not, I think Ja Morant can definitely cover these 10 assists. We've seen it so far this season. He's had 10 plus assists in 5 out of the 6 games. I do like it. And another reason why I do like it is if you look at his points prop, it's at 21.5. And for this particular game, the matchup's not great. Now, Ja Morant does score a lot of his points in transition, and the Nets are average at that. But he does score a lot of his points in the pick and roll, and the Nets, they actually play that pick and roll quite well. And it showed it. He's had his lowest points total this season against the Brooklyn Nets, scoring 14 points. I think they do make it difficult for him, but I think that just opens up others to get more. So I do like Zach 80 points. That could be another good option. And even Jaren Jackson Jr., I think, and he could have his way here against the Nets. But out of the 3, I think Ja Morant assists. It made the most sense to me. So I do like it. Ja Morant, take it at over 8.5 if you want to. I'm going the 9.5 at plus money. Let's go, Ja. Now, my last pick to share with you before we do the deep dive, we're looking at the Hornets versus Timberwolves, and I might be resentful for this because I did bet on him not too long ago, and it absolutely cooked me. But I'm looking at Grant Williams here, and I'm looking to take his under in his PRA, under 19.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Now, he's averaging 15.3 points, rebounds, and assists this season. He's hit this line once, and that was against the Toronto Raptors. He does have a very difficult matchup here. Up against the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you look at his scoring potential in this game, you can see Grant Williams pretty much lives on the outside, gets a lot of his points from shooting on the perimeter as a spot-up shooter. Minnesota Timberwolves, top 5 in defending spot-up shooters this season. And if you look at their shot zones, they defend the perimeter extremely well. Another thing about Grant Williams is even if you just break down his assists and his rebounds line, firstly with the assist line, he has covered this in 3 out of 6 games, averaging 3 assists a game. But his best assist games were games where Brandon Miller didn't play. Now, Brandon Miller is back in this one, so I don't see the high potential assist numbers. Take a look at that last game against Boston. Brandon Miller came back from injury, and Grant Williams only had 2 assists from 2 potential assists. So I don't even see him going over that. And then if you look at his rebound line of 4.5, he's only gone over that in 1 game this season. And that happened to be against the Boston Celtics. And in that game, Nick Richards went out injured. In the second half, they didn't know what to do. So they put Grant Williams in at center, and he picked up 4 rebounds in the second half, which is why I bet on him the following game. Then he only had 3 rebounds. Now, Grant Williams is going to have his hands full. He's going to deal with Julius Randle or Rudy Gobert or a Naz Reid. Either way, they all have a size advantage over Grant Williams. I doubt that he gets many rebounds. He does the right thing as a defender and he boxes out, but I don't see him collecting too many of those either. I just think this PRA of 19.5, he's got to do something amazingly well. And I don't think he does it in this game. So the other thing here, there's blowout potential here. 9.5 point spread in this game. The Timberwolves are favorites, and they're also looking to bounce back after a loss against the Spurs. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Timberwolves absolutely destroy and demolish these guys. Grant Williams may not see his full set of minutes either. So I do like his under. Outside of that, no other plays to share with you. Pumping the brakes real quick. Sign up to my partners. You can see the pictures right up here. Chalkboard, Parlay Play, Rebet, Dabble, Better, and Boom Fantasy. If you sign up with these guys and make your first deposit, they're going to pay me a little bit of dough, and every little bit of dough helps because the more money I can make, the more likely I can get to doing this full time and create more and more content for you guys. It's a great way to support me and the channel, and I appreciate you if you do. Now let's get into the deep dive, shall we? Let's go. All right, let's do a deep dive and hit on some real key players to talk about why I do and why I don't want to bet on them. I promise to keep this under an hour, so let's go. Donovan Mitchell, first one. His points prop, it's moving up to 25 to 25.5. Back-to-back set here against Milwaukee. Very popular play was his over in the last game, which he cashed, finished with 30 points. Now he's hit this in 2 out of 7 games this season. This 30 points came with 25 shots, 4 from 8 from deep. Can he do it again? Absolutely. But these back-to-back sets can be a little bit ugly. Now, Donovan Mitchell was very effective in the first half. The Bucks didn't necessarily make too many changes in the second half apart from clogging the lane a little bit more. So an interesting fact here, Donovan Mitchell got all of his assists in the last game in the second half of that game. So I did consider taking his assist line, but that's at 5.5. The Bucks, not great defensively. So definitely there's an opportunity there, but these back-to-back sets can be a little bit weird. So I wasn't too interested in playing that. Giannis, game time decision. Not only does he has tendonitis in his knee, he's also got an adductor strain as well in the same leg. So only lines are available for him. If he does play, it's hard to bet an under on Giannis, but he's got 2 injuries now on the same leg. I don't know if I'd be confident taking any plays on that. Outside of that, there's nothing from Jared Allen or Evan Mobley that really appeal to me. Looking further into this Warriors versus Wizards game, and I really wanted to bet on Bilal Coulibaly. So he's played 2 games without Kyle Kuzma, 27 and 22 points up against the Warriors now. But what turned me off here is, yes, he does score a lot of points as a spot-up shooter, but with Kyle Kuzma out of the lineup, he's doing less spot-up shooting, and he's scoring a lot in transition, and he's doing his own pick-and-roll shit and driving to the basket. Unfortunately, the matchup for him is a difficult one. When Kyle Kuzma is there, he does create some shots here for Bilal, but now he's going to kind of have to create for himself. And I don't know if he can do that against this Golden State Warriors team. He is up against Draymond, the donkey. So I'm not saying to bet the under. I want to bet the over based on his recent form, but I just don't think this is the right matchup for me. Now, there's no odds available for the Warriors team. Steph Curry's a game time decision, and he obviously impacts everybody. But this Lakers-Pistons game, we got Cade Cunningham, his points prop. He's been pretty close to it, but I'm not overly excited to bet on it. His matchup, though, is okay. It's not a difficult matchup. The Lakers not good at playing defense at all, but Cade hasn't been able to hit this line as of late, and that's partly not because he's been playing bad, but that's because we've seen an emergence of Jaden Ivey. Tobias Harris has started to play well. Tim Hardaway's chipping in some points, and if Jalen Duren starts to score as well, there's really no need for Cade Cunningham to go off here. So not to say that he can't do it and that he's playing bad. He's just got other players in his team which are producing some points. So I couldn't get there. Now, if you look at his assist line, it's at 7.5. He's gone under this in 4 straight games. And even though the matchup is pretty good here against the Lakers, who do give up a ton of assists, we've got other players doing some playmaking as well. Like Jaden Ivey's taking some assists from Cade Cunningham. So not to say that he can't do it, I just question if these lines are a little bit too high. So that's my concern there with Cade Cunningham. Jaden Ivey, like I said, scoring the ball much better. 18 points per game this season, right? Under in his last 2 games, and I get that. Matchups have been somewhat difficult. Actually, not against the Nets. That was a good matchup for him. He just shot horribly. Now, he's up against the Lakers, and his matchup is pretty good here. He scores a lot of points in transition. The Lakers, one of the worst teams in the league at defending transition. The problem here is that the Detroit Pistons play at the slowest pace. So will they run? They probably should, because if they play slow, Anthony Davis is going to eat them alive. So I do like Jaden Ivey's points prop. Not going to lie. I did lean to that one. I just like Anthony Davis's one a little bit more. Jalen Duren, he just had a big double-double against the Brooklyn Nets. 13 points, 17 rebounds. But now he's up against the Lakers. And the Lakers, top 3 in terms of rebounds allowed. So they don't allow too many of those. They do allow some points under the basket, though. But who in their right mind is going to take Jalen Duren points prop straight up against Anthony Davis? I'm not down for that at all. Now let's talk about the King for a second. I wanted to take his under in his PRA, not going to lie. You guys know how excited I get to fade him. Under 40.5. Hasn't put back-to-back games together, playing this well. And looking at how he's gone this season, been relatively inconsistent scoring, passing, and rebounding. So he hasn't necessarily been able to put all of it together at the same time. And yeah, I just question whether he could do it here, especially if the Detroit Pistons are going to play slow. So scoring-wise, LeBron scoring a lot of his points in transition. The Pistons play slow, so they don't actually let many transition points occur. They are pretty weak in the pick and roll, though. But LeBron James, I am a hater. So I wanted to bet the under. I didn't. And if he finishes under 40.5 PRA, I'm going to be kicking myself that I did not do it. But yeah, those are my thoughts on LeBron. Not looking to take his over on anything. Boston versus Atlanta. We've got Trae Young. Now, Trae Young, I had an interesting look here. We know how Boston plays. They let point guards score. So if you looked at any website, you'll see that they allow the most points to point guards. They let them score, but they don't let them get the assists off. The play that I like the most is probably the assist prop and taking the under 10.5, even though he's averaging 11.5. Their defense, somewhat similar to OKC. OKC, actually, their defense is not similar at all. I was going to say the matchup to get assists is going to be just as difficult. But yeah, I just couldn't get there because Trae Young's usage rate is going to be through the roof, but there is potential for a blowout, like I said, with the Peyton Pritchard play. His point line's at 26.5. He should get a lot of shots up. I just don't know if he's going to make them. So Trae Young, pretty hot and cold as of late, so I don't think I could get there. But he scores in the pick and roll, which is great. He can get a lot of floaters off this Boston team, pretty soft in the middle. But Trae Young wants to shoot that deep three, and he's going to get his opportunities here. It's just comes down to whether you think he's going to get them. So I lean Trae Young over in points and looking to fade some strong results here and looking at it under in assists. If you look at these last 4 games, these 4 teams leak a lot of assists. The 3 teams, the Wizards, the Kings, and the Pelicans, they give up a whole lot of assists. If we look at assists allowed, they'd be giving them up. So yeah, I definitely lean that way, but not game enough to bet it. Jalen Johnson, been filling up the stat sheet as of late, but he's got a very difficult matchup here against Boston when it comes to scoring the ball. They don't give up points to spot up shooters. They don't foul very much at all. So I think it might be difficult for him to score against Boston. He has been getting off some assists, though. 9 and 8 assists in his last 2 games, really stepping up as that secondary not shot creator, playmaker behind Trae Young. The assist volume has definitely been there, but Boston, they don't give up too many assists, to be honest. Well, they do, but not to the point guard. It could be a good look here for Jalen Johnson if Trae Young isn't getting them, but at the same time, if Trae Young's taking a ton of shots, might be a little bit difficult here for Jalen Johnson. So I don't think this is the right matchup to take him. I think there's going to be a time and place where I do bet heavily on him. I just don't know if it's this game here. Looking at Boston, let's look at Jason Tatum real quick. And I think he goes over his points prop given how easy this matchup is. No Jaylen Brown, so he should see a lot of shots. It all comes down to percentages. Jason Tatum scoring isolation, free throws, and as the pick and roll ball handler. Pretty soft matchup here against Atlanta, scoring above the break and inside the rim. Atlanta, one of the worst teams at defending above the break. Another pivot you could take for Jason Tatum is his 3-pointers made prop, but he's real hot and cold. So actually, the points prop's probably the better way to go. But at 30.5, I don't know if I could get there, to be honest. If we look at his head-to-head matchups with them last season, he did score 30-plus points in 3 out of the 4 games in the regular season. So that's supporting. And in those games, he played 39, 36, 39, 45 minutes. So a ton of minutes. This season, what's he getting? He's probably playing similar minutes, I guess. But there are some blowouts in there. But if there is a blowout, Jason Tatum may not play enough time to get there. But with no Jaylen Brown in the mix, I think Jason Tatum first quarter points prop, I think that could be a good look. I haven't taken the time to dive into that, but I know he's going to take a whole lot of shots, that's for sure. Grizzlies versus the Nets. We've gone through Ja Morant. I think another interesting play, well, there's Dennis Schroeder. He was terrible today, and I bet on him. But he really could bounce back. He killed Memphis the last time they played with 33 points. And I think he got some decent assist numbers as well. 33 points and 8 assists last time he played Memphis. But Schroeder not looking aggressive at all, but there's no Ben Simmons in this game. So that could help. Cam Thomas, he also has a good matchup here against Memphis in terms of his play type and his shot zones. He's got a great matchup against Memphis. He didn't play too well the last time they played Memphis. He was only 4 from 12, got to the free throw line quite well. But again, Dennis Schroeder went off. So could this be a Cam Thomas game? There's a real chance that it does. If you look at Cam Thomas, though, first quarter points under. It's been a wagon. It's hit in every single game this season, if you like betting that way. Kings versus the Heat. I didn't finalize a bet on this. First thing I want to say, Sacramento Kings. I think they've played like 3 or 4 games in 5 days or something like that. Let's check it out. They've played 1, 2, 3. So this is their 4th game in 5 days. And they've had to travel to a different city in every single game. They were in Utah, and then they went to Atlanta, and then they went to Toronto, and now up against Miami, they've had to go to Miami. So 4 different cities in 5 days for the Sacramento Kings. I wasn't interested in betting that over in any of their props. So I think this might be a little bit of a trap, because if you look at some of the place, or if you just look at the props really for the Sacramento Kings, you're going to find that a lot of these guys have an excellent hit rate on the number. And part of the reason for that is the line is a little bit lower than they normally would be. And yeah, I think the travel has been factored into these lines. So it could be a bit of a trap here if you're betting on the Sacramento Kings players. And with so many games, why would I risk it, right? So not betting on any of them. Looking at the Miami Heat, though, the one player I did have interest in betting on was Terry Rozier. His points prop has been great, and he has an excellent matchup here. Scores most of his points from the spot up. And the Sacramento Kings, the worst team in the league at defending spot-up shooters. Terry Rozier, I know he's listed as the point guard, but Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, they do a lot of creating on offense. Terry Rozier is their designated shooter, to be honest. So I do like that look. I did also consider his 3-pointers made prop. He's averaging 3.4 per game. You can get this close to plus money if you take his over to hit 3. So that was a really strong lean that I had there on Terry Rozier. But the only reason I didn't bet it, I think Duncan Robinson might be back. They got shooters just all over the place. So it could be Tyler Hero's night. It could be Terry Rozier's. Jovic's very capable as a shooter. I think if Duncan Robinson's back, he could get it cooking as well. So I just think the Miami Heat have a lot of options there. Although Terry Rozier was a very close bet of mine. Utah Jazz versus the Bulls. A lot of game time decisions in that one, so there's no props available there. Knicks versus the Rockets. I did go through a lot of these players in this game, and I just couldn't land on anything. Jalen Green, he plays. It's a home game. He actually has been playing well at home. He's averaging 19 points per game at home in 3 games. Where he does his damages on the road. So that's an interesting look. He is playing at home today. The matchup against the Knicks, not great, but it's not bad either. Scores a lot of his points above the break. Knicks are somewhat soft around there, below average when it comes to pick and roll defense. But at home, like I said, Jalen Green hasn't been cooking, so I didn't want to bet on him. Şengün, waiting for him to explode. The opportunities have been there, but in that last game against the Warriors, only played 21 minutes. His coach pretty much said he's too fat to get on the court right now. So I don't know if that means he plays his normal minutes or is he restricted to 20. I don't know what happens. Tari Eason, does he play a lot more? So I'm not too sure. Jabari Smith Jr. playing very well as of late, being the real beneficiary of those Alperen Şengün reduced minutes. His scoring rate has been great. He should have a good matchup here for rebounds against the Knicks. But, there's a feeling that, it's a 3-point spread. The Knicks could really pump them and blow them out right now. I haven't been too impressed with how the Rockets have been playing. Speaking of the Knicks, Jalen Brunson, Tibbs giving him a break this year, not just ramming the minutes down his throat. He's playing low 30s as an average this season, which is pretty wild. And for him to get 27.5 points with such low minutes, it has proven quite difficult. Did just score 36 against Detroit, though, but it was a super efficient game. 6 from 8 from downtown. Not getting that volume or that shot percentage as of late. So this Houston Rockets team, above average when it comes to defense. I don't know if I could take Jalen Brunson over there. His assist prop at 6.5. It was at 7.5 earlier. You actually still can get it at 7.5, but that's going to get bet down to 6.5. I'm not interested in betting the over or the under on Jalen Brunson. We got Carl Zesty Towns. His point line's at 21.5. He's hit this in 1 of 5 games this season. Had a great game against Miami. Outside of that, he's been pretty tame, pretty zesty, But, Kat, I'm probably never going to bet on him this season unless it's rebounds. I did consider looking at his rebound prop at 10.5, and that's purely because the Houston Rockets, their offense is just so bad right now. There's going to be a lot of rebound opportunities, but Josh Hart could be in there getting those boards. Şengün, I don't know if he plays too much, and if he doesn't, and who knows how they play. They might go small ball. They might stretch the floor, meaning Karl-Anthony Towns might not be in position. I guess there were just too many risks involved in me taking the bet. He probably goes over. I just wasn't down to play it. So there's nothing in that game that really got me interested. Hornets, T-Wolves, Anthony Edwards. I think he goes over his points prop today up against the Charlotte Hornets. Pretty bad team. Worst defensive rating in the league. Anthony Edwards scores a lot of his points above the break. In all these play types and shot zones, Charlotte, pretty average. In terms of Anthony Davis and how he likes to operate. So the matchup's not the best, not the worst either, but overall, he should be able to score however he likes. Another pivot I was going to take is his 3-pointers made prop over 3.5, but it's a little bit too juice for my liking, but I do think he goes over. Pretty tame against the Spurs. He only took 7 attempts. He just lacked aggressiveness. So a good bounce back spot here for Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves. I did consider all of that. LaMelo Ball, been balling out of his mind, averaging 30 points per game, covering in 5 out of 6. Now he's up against the Timberwolves. Pretty tough matchup because they're excellent defending the perimeter, and that's where LaMelo Ball scoring almost 60% of his points from. But LaMelo Ball more than capable of driving in, popping a couple of floaters, and we can see on the shot zone chart here, the Timberwolves have been a little bit soft around the paint, but I think that's by design. They prefer to give up 2s than 3s, so they take those 3s away, which I think it makes it difficult for LaMelo Ball to score 30. I did consider the under, but his usage rate is going to be sky high. There is blowout potential though, but I think taking the under and Grant Williams was a better look. But I could definitely see LaMelo Ball going under his points prop today. Magic versus Thunder. I'm yet to get up to this point in the slate, so I'm seeing all these for the first time, but let's talk about it. We've got SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. His point line's at 27.5. My first thought is to take the under purely because OKC, we've seen an improvement in their scoring from Chet. Jalen Williams can get some buckets, and also there's blowout potential here. The Thunder, 12.5 point favorites in this game. The Magic were just blown out by Dallas. No Banchero, their offense stinks. So does SGA need to be in there? Does he need to score 28 points in this team? Probably not. In terms of play type, somewhat difficult matchup for him. Opposition defense, they give up points probably in the corners and more so. They're not giving up much above the break. SGA, though, 3-level scorer. I think he can score whenever he likes. I just don't know whether he needs to score this many points. So there's a hesitation there. We got Jalen Williams. His line's at 18.5. Matchup wise, probably a little bit better than SGA's, but it's difficult to bet on OKC because they've got 3 players who can score 20 any given night. So I'd be a little bit hesitant around there. Chet Holmgren, he's had a quiet 2 games. Last 2 games, hasn't played as many minutes, hasn't scored as many points. He'd be just chilling. But his matchup here, it's not too bad. Pretty good matchup against them. But again, it's the blowout, right? So one thing I'd probably consider is maybe look at the rebounds because this Magic offense sucks without Banchero in it. Banchero, my apologies. Now, Chet had 14 rebounds in his last matchup. Should he play more minutes tonight? I'm not too sure, right? Because the blowout, that's a massive risk for me. So when the blowout's the risk, I think a better look here is probably to take the under. So if you're looking at the under, I think someone like it's got to be Franz or it's got to be Jalen Suggs if you look at the unders. Now, both of these guys sucked against Dallas. They both went under. They're going to get a lot of usage rate and opportunities, but I think Jalen Suggs probably has a more difficult matchup. So where OKC are the kings in defense is locking down perimeter guards. You can see it in their shot zone chart. They give up some shots in the corner. They give nothing above the break and in the mid-range. And they're top 10 in defending the paint. Whereas you can look at Jalen Suggs, 50% of his points come from above the break, and he's got the worst matchup possible. He could have Caruso on him, Lou Dort on him, SGA on him. Like all of them are going to shut his ass down. The Magic do give up points to spot up shooters, right? I mean, the Thunder do give up points to spot up shooters in the corner. Jalen Suggs does not shoot from there, and with Banchero not there, there's no one to really create shots for him. We saw him struggle against Dallas trying to create his own shot. So I think this is a terrible matchup for him, and I'm looking at the under here. I'll honestly probably bet that now that I've seen it, but the odds for it aren't great. You're looking at average odds of -130. Actually, bet 365 are pretty good odds. So I could look at the under there for Jalen Suggs, but Franz Wagner, let's take a look at him. He's gone under in 4 straight games. His matchup, again, very similar to Jalen Suggs. No Banchero, so he's not going to get those wide open spot ups he's used to getting. He's going to be on the ball a little bit more, and if he's on the ball, he's going to have a tough time. I think the only benefit here for Franz, he's probably going to have the size advantage for whoever defends him, whether it's a Jalen Williams, whether it's a Lou Dort. I think he's going to have a definite size advantage. He could take advantage of that. So I think Jalen Suggs, probably the better play to take the under on. Well, that's probably what I'm going to take now that I found it. Next game, we've got the Blazers versus the Pelicans. It looks like Zion is back. What do we see here? So we'll go through Zion first. Actually, I don't think anyone's going to bet on Zion. Up against Portland for the 3rd time already this season. Zion went under in all 3 games against them. Shot terribly, 27 and 25%. And these games were pretty close when they played. The spread's only 3 points in this one. So if you look at the opposition defense here for Portland, which is pretty crazy, they are terrible defending everything except the paint. And if you look at Zion, he only scores in the paint. So his points line's at 28.5. Is it too easy to say he goes under? I don't know. I think that's 28.5 is crazy high in my opinion. Based on just looking at this shot zone, this is already built for a Brandon Ingram. What's that other guy's name? Fucking hell. Everyone bet on him today. Jordan Hawkins, that's who it is. I think Jordan Hawkins' game time decision. I don't know if he plays in this one either. Partly why Zion Williamson's line is so high, but yeah, he hasn't been high volume. The most shots he's taken in a game this season is 20, and based on his play style, like as someone who plays a little bit of amateur basketball, like it's tiring to drive to the rim all the time, the way that Zion does. So I don't think he's got the energy right now to put up more than 20 shots in a game. And this Portland matchup's been difficult. Portland still has DeAndre Ayton in there. There's a chance that Rob Williams plays as well. So they're going to have some big bodies down there to protect the rim. So, yeah, I think under in Zion's points is probably a good look. I'm thinking about that. Flicking through, rebounds, inconsistent. But yeah, under for Zion. I think that could be a good play here, especially coming first game back from injury. Brandon Ingram, he's covered this line in 4 of 7. His line's at 24.5, so he's got a much better matchup, especially as a spot-up shooter. In these games against Portland, though, he went under in both games. It was a bit of a shit fight. Neither team was playing well, so, probably best to avoid this game, to be honest, unless you're taking unders. Jose Alvarado, I can't believe I bet on him today. He was terrible, 3 from 12. But Jose Alvarado does have a good matchup as a spot-up shooter here. And if Zion's going to be there, I think it's going to create some opportunities. But he hasn't been shooting very well this season, to be honest. I think he'll get his chances, but I don't think he shoots well. It's a real messy game, this one. We've got Anthony Simons. Anthony Simons could have a good game now that I think about it. He scored 24 and 27 points in the 2 games against them, against the Pels this season. But one thing to keep in mind is he had Herb Jones all over him in those games. Like Herb Jones was just riding him, and Herb Jones is out for this one. So safe to say he probably has an easier matchup in this game. The Pels have been, I'd say, a little bit worse than average at defending the perimeter as well. So Anthony Simons definitely could go off in this game. I think so anyway. The matchup, somewhat difficult though. Watch him go over now that I've said it. We've got Jeremy Grant. What's his chart look like? 17.5. He killed the Pelicans. 34 and 28 points. Brandon Ingram was his key defender in that game and both of those games, and he absolutely murdered them. His line's at 17.5 in this one. Would it too crazy to ask him to go over again? I think it might be worth a look, to be honest. Jeremy Grant, I don't mind that as a risky play for Jeremy Grant to score some points. I might take a look at that one as well. DeAndre Ayton, what's he done? He's been pretty shit this season. Rebound-wise, he rebounded very well against the Pels. 15 and 12 boards in those 2 games. So it's a pretty good matchup for him to get some rebounds, I'd say. Line's at 11.5, though. It's a pretty high line. I'm not too convinced. He's been getting a lot of rebound chances, though. So, DeAndre Ayton rebounds. I'd probably lean to the over there, but I just got to take a mental note here. Jalen Suggs unders, Zion Williamson unders could be a good look. And then Jeremy Grant, probably put a small play on him to get a lot of points. Now, we've got Dallas versus Indiana, and we're looking at Luka Doncic here. Now, Luka Doncic, his points line's at 30.5. It's a back-to-back game. Played one back-to-back against Minnesota. He was terrible in that game, so be cautious of that. But this Indiana team, still not great defensively. Bottom 5 in defensive rating. The matchup is great here. Luka scores as a pick-and-roll ball handler, and he shoots from above the break. And the Pacers not good at defending either of those. So the matchup is excellent here for Luka Doncic. So I definitely lean to the over, but that's too high of a line for me to take. His assist line's at 7.5. He's only averaging 6 assists this season, which is pretty crazy. His potential assist volume hasn't been that high. You'd think it would be with Klay Thompson, but that's definitely not happening. Rebound-wise, 8.5 is the line. He's averaging 8.5 this season. I'm not overly interested in betting on those. So Luka, I'm not interested in betting on him. Kyrie's my guy, though. So I might be down to bet on this. Now, I think I'll remember, not this game. I think I looked at it earlier this season, how he performs in back-to-backs, and I was pretty pleased. Now, his line's at 24.5. He's averaging 23 this season. He's hit this in 2 out of 6 games. His matchup very similar to Luka's in terms of play type, pick and roll, scoring from above the break 3, and we know that the Pacers not very good at defending either of those. Now, in back-to-back games, he had one back-to-back game this season against Minnesota, killed them. 6 from 8 from deep, 13 from 23 from the field, scored 35 points. If we look at last season's back-to-back data, we can see that Kyrie averages 27.5 points per game in back-to-back games, 5 out of 8 as a hit rate. And if we look at the matchups here, pick and roll ball handlers, a lot of these matchups weren't easy either. A lot of them were quite difficult. Let's check out above the break 3s. Now, in the games where he went over, in a lot of these games, the matchup was an easy one. Easier one, I would say. Not easy. So Yeah, in terms of points, Dallas is going to score some points here against Indiana. The total game points is at about 235, and with a spread of -5, you're probably looking at what Dallas to score 120. So if Dallas is scoring 120 points, I'd be thinking someone like Kyrie goes off. Clay Thompson's been pretty shit as of late, so Clay Thompson could probably get some buckets in this game too. Let's have a quick look at him. His line's at 15.5. He's gone under in 3 straight games, but he's also had 3 terrible matchups in terms of defending 3-point shooters. Now, if we look at above the break threes, this blue line is perfect. So this is a ranking of how the teams defend above the break. The first 3 games where he went over his points prop, you can see here all 3 of these teams bottom 10 in defending above the break. Then he versed teams that were in the top 10 defending above the break. He went under in all 3 games, and now he's up against the Pacers, one of the worst teams in the league at defending above the break. So Clay Thompson could be a bounce back spot. Now you can see it in this line. His line's at 15.5. In a lot of these games here where the matchup was tough, his line was at 13.5. And despite being shit in all of these games and underperforming against that line, they still set it at 15.5. So the matchup here for Clay Thompson is a good one. And honestly, I'd lean to the over. It's a plus money play. You can get him at 14.5 on some books. I honestly don't hate this. I don't hate it at all. It requires a closer investigation. That's what I'll say. But Clay Thompson, I don't mind him. But let's have a quick look at these Indiana Pacers. So they've got a tough matchup. Dallas's defense been pretty good this season. They got a top 3 defensive rating. They don't let points in around the basket, and they've been pretty good at defending the perimeter. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but Dallas, pretty good on defense. So Pascal Siakam, he's been a little bit quiet. His matchup is not excellent, so I would not be interested in playing him. Tyrese Halliburton, his line's at 17.5. He scores in the pick and roll. Dallas top 5 in defending the pick and roll. So it's a tough matchup for him. Scoring a lot of his points above the break, and Dallas top 10 in defending that. So yeah, I'd lean to the under for Tyrese Halliburton. His assist line at 6.5 is pretty good. Low line, but Nembhard's back in. So Nembhard was out in the last game. His over and assist was a great pick. But at the same time, he's in some pretty good form. So I lean that way, but I'm not willing to bet on it. I think with this Dallas game, I'd be tossing up between Clay Thompson and Kyrie Irving to go over their points prop. I do like what I'm seeing there. Now we've got the Raptors versus the Denver Nuggets. See what value we can find. Having a quick look at RotoWire to see the lineups. Anthony Gordon's a game time decision. Jamal Murray's out. Emmanuel Quickly is a game time decision as well. So don't want to jump on any of these Toronto Raptors too soon. I think one player that you can probably jump on is Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl averaging 14.4 points per game. His line's at 14.5. Scored 16 points against Denver earlier this season. He did play 40 minutes. I think that might have been an overtime game. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure I could bet it the over again, knowing took him 40 minutes to score the 16. But his rebounds could be a look, but that's at 10.5. Now, that's just crazy. Now, the good thing here, he had 19 rebounds against Denver in that last game. And Denver hasn't been good all season, and they've been leaking a lot of boards to centers. So Jakob Poeltl rebounds, it could be a good look there. I will say that. RJ Barrett been balling out of his mind. 3 straight games with 30-plus points. But all of these games were missing Scotty Barnes and Emmanuel Quickly. Except for this first game. Scotty Barnes played in that one, got injured. Without both of them, he's been going off. So until we know that Emmanuel Quickly is out, here's a game time decision, extremely unlikely to play. But if he does play, it absolutely cooks the RJ Barrett play. So I would not be betting on any of these Raptors until Quickly's confirmed in or out. Nikola Jokic, been a beast, scored 40 points the last time he played the Raptors. Settled more into his assists and his passing game as of late. So does he go back to scoring? Because he should. The Raptors, extremely soft on the inside, one of the worst teams at defending the paint. Jokic scoring almost 2/3 of his points in the paint. So it makes a whole lot of sense for him to score a lot of points. But we also see no Jamal Murray. So he's probably going to have to create on offense as well. He only had 4 assists in that last game against Toronto. Jamal Murray was playing in that game. And Jamal Murray missed that last game against Utah. He did have 9 assists in a 26-point blowout. So he only played 30 minutes in that game, finished with 9 assists. So yeah, the assist could be a good look, but you never know, Nikola Jokic. One other look could just be betting on his PRA, but it's 50.5. You're looking for a monster game from Nikola Jokic. Even a triple double is probably not going to save you. So the lines are high. He probably hits it. I'm just not down to play it. But yeah, Christian Braun's been a real popular play, but his point sign's now at 12.5. He scored 17 points in that game against the Raps. He does score around the paint as well. So the matchup's not too bad for him. I don't hate that. But yeah, his points and his rebound line, it's really caught up to him. It's now at 17.5. I remember early in the season, you can catch him at 12.5, and he's been a beast. 17.5, the hit rate is great on it. But yeah, you've got to factor in he probably plays 5 less minutes in this Raptors game. Last time they play, I don't know if it comes so easy to him. So, yeah, in this particular game, not loving anything as of yet. I think one thing to look at could be the Nuggets bench. Probably Strawther. I did bet on him the other day, and he delivered. But we've got the 76ers versus the Suns. Paul George looks like he might be making his first appearance. But again, game time decision. Bradley Beal, game time decision as well. So, given they're both game time decisions, I would not bet on anyone in this particular game because they're so impactful to the other players' lines. I'm not down for that unless you're betting on someone like an Andre Drummond or a Nurkic, who's not going to be impacted by these changes. But if we just look at Paul George specifically, his line's at 17.5. We've got no data this year, actually. That was a fucking waste of time. Devin Booker's point signs at 27.5. Been killing it as a late. With or without Bradley Beal, he's been doing quite well. But matchup wise for him, it's not a bad one for him, so he can definitely make it happen. And we've got who else is there? Kevin Durant, 24.5 seems like a low line, but he's been down the last 2 games. So these teams with only a few key scorers, if they take turns, like these games where Kevin Durant went off, a lot of these games Devin Booker went under. Now that Kevin Durant's taken a backseat, Devin Booker is absolutely cooking. So it's hard to get them cooking at the same time. So yeah, I'd pass on all of these. Like Maxey, you can't bet on Maxey because we don't know if Paul George is going to play. And if Paul George plays, he's got to share the ball around. So yeah, I want to take any bets on that game until you know the lineups are confirmed. And then we've got the last game. It's the Spurs versus the Clippers. So James Harden, I did bet he's under against OKC. That cashed because the matchup was awful for him. This matchup against the Spurs is a lot better. The Spurs, not great at defending above the break. Harden scores 48% of his points there. They're below average in terms of defending the pick and roll. So James Harden points, I'd probably lean to the over there. His assist props at 9.5. The Spurs not allowing too many assists this season, though. So I don't know how I feel about that. Rebounds, his line's at 6.5. Been rebounding very well, averaging 8.8 rebounds a game this season. But not enough data there. You'd probably have to dive a little bit deeper to figure out. Right now, I think maybe 3-pointers could be a good look for James Harden. Even though he's only covered it in 1 of 6 games this season, his 3-point volume is sky high. 9, 10, 11, 12, 5, and 9. So he's taking a lot of threes. He's just shooting a terrible percentage right now, but his line is for him to make 4. I don't know how I feel about that. The Spurs, not necessarily allowing a ton of threes. They're pretty average. So I'd probably look at the points prop for James Harden. He can go over there. Norm Powell, he's been playing very well this season. His matchup's not the best in terms of the Spurs limiting spot-up shooters. But at the same time, Powell's been doing a lot more work off the dribble in the screen. So he pretty much scores in every type of way at the moment. There's nothing stopping him from getting his shots up, I'll tell you that. So Norm Powell could be a good look. And an interesting one is for Zubac here. Scores a ton of points in the paint. The Spurs, pretty good at limiting points in the paint right now. They defend the pick and roll extremely well. They defend the post very well. The Wembanyama effect. So points might be difficult for Zubac to get. But in saying that, has been playing quite well this season. But if we look at his rebounds, I think his rebounds could be a good look. Line's at 11.5. He's cashed this in 5 straight games now. But if we look at other centers and how they've performed against the Spurs, Kessler had 11 boards. Şengün had 12 rebounds in the last matchup. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really love it, to be honest. I'll tell you that much. Let's have a look at these Spurs, see if we can find an edge. And we probably won't because this Clippers team is very good defensively. Now, Victor Wembanyama's fallen in love with the 3-point shot. 32% of his points are from above the break. He's taken a ton of threes. Up against the Clippers, that is their only weak spot. They're really good at defending the paint, but above the break, they're kind of letting teams shoot some threes on them. But Victor Wembanyama to score 23.5. He's only done it in 2 games out of 6 this season. He's only averaging 18 points per game. Can he score 5 more points? Now, Zubac, not going to be able to defend him on the perimeter, but down low, probably as good as chance as anybody else. So Victor Wembanyama, I think the under in his PRA is always a good look, but let me have a look. Assists, we don't know what's happening there. Rebounds, line's at 10.5. He's gone under his rebound line in every game outside of a 20 rebound effort against the Houston Rockets. So the under is probably a good look here. The Clippers, top 10 in terms of rebounds allowed, top 10 in defensive rating, number 1 in the league in points allowed in the paint. So yeah, he's just got a tough matchup, I'll say, Victor Wembanyama. So probably be thinking about the PRA. If we look at this is the pick and roll, man. The Clippers good at defending the pick and roll. In other difficult matchups, OKC, the hardest matchup he's had so far, and probably that he will see. He was terrible in that game with 16 PRA. But the Clippers are the second hardest matchup Victor Wembanyama has had to face this season. The easiest matchup he had was against Utah, and he had 41 PRA, and he just went over this line of 38.5. The Houston Rockets, that was a back-to-back game where he had 20 rebounds, and he managed to just go over it. So up against the Clippers here, Victor Wembanyama, I don't mind looking at the under for his PRA. I just don't think he can play good enough to absolutely destroy this team. Tough defensive matchup for him. Jeremy Sohan, he's been very good this season. Pretty consistent scoring the ball. 17 points per game this season. He scores a lot of his points in the paint, though. And we know that this Clippers team, very good at limiting points down there. The only weak spot is to spot up shooting. And Sohan, I wouldn't trust him. If a man shoots free throws with one hand, I ain't going to trust him. But look, I wouldn't be surprised if he scores points here. He always seems to score, finds his way. Even against OKC, where the matchup was tough, he took 16 shots, managed to score 17 points. So definitely capable. And I think with Wemby taking so much attention, it'll give Sohan that easy look. So I wouldn't talk you off a bridge if you're looking at betting the over there. What's another one? CP3 assists. That's been pretty much a wagon. His line's at 8.5 now. Covered that in 3 straight games. His Clippers team pretty good at limiting assists. But in saying that, Tyus Jones had very strong assist numbers in his matchups against the Clippers this season, exceeding his averages in both games. So Chris Paul, a very similar play type. Could go over his assist prop. I'm not loving it to death, I'll tell you that much. So for this game for the Clippers, I'd probably say James Harden over his points and Wemby under his PRA, probably the ones that I do like the most. So that's a wrap on Daft's deep dive on this massive 15-game slate of the NBA. If you're interested in checking out all of my free picks, you can sign up to that. Link for that's in the video description below. Go into that website, click on the free section, subscribe, and I'll send you out free picks every single day. But I appreciate you all if you made it this far in the video. If you did, let me know in the comment section. Say Wemby sucks, and I know you made it to this point in the video. But that's a wrap for me. I'm getting tired as hell. That's another 1-hour video, and I've got more research to do. Best of luck to you. Best of luck to me. Best of luck to us. Peace.